My thesis statement. The myth of the West was that the cowboys and gunslingers killed away any threat that opposed the West, including Native Americans, but that was actually false because the Native Americans posed much of a threat and protected their lands by killing many of the Americans.
Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse were opposed to selling the sacred land. But the government was not dissuaded. The religious concerns of the Lakota were not of primary concern to the settlers and prospectors pushing the government, nor were the terms of the Treaty of 1868. Newspaper editorials contributed to the climate of hostility toward the Lakota.
What shall be done with these Indian dogs in our manger? They are too lazy and too much like mere animals to cultivate the fertile.
There was nothing that could stir an irrational mania, quite like the very hint of gold in some recess of the West. And as one of the senators commented, the American people will override every Indian tribe and every regiment of the U.S. Army to get at where the gold is, and there is no stopping them.
The Americans violate their treaty with the Native Americans and stop at nothing to try and conquer their sacred land. The Native Americans wouldn't sell to them.
But other Lakota were still willing to carry on the fight for justice and freedom. As many as 3,000 Lakota had refused to sign the 1868 treaty and continued to live in the Powder River region, designated by the U.S. as unceded Indian territory. These Lakota turned to Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse, two honored war chiefs for leadership. Crazy Horse forcefully stated his people's position.
We did not ask you white men to come here. The Great Spirit gave us this country as a home. We do not want your civilization. We would live as our fathers did, and their fathers before them.
Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse were two high war chiefs voted by the Sioux to fight against Custer's army in the Battle of Little Bighorn, which led to the defeat of Custer. They were very angry with the reservations of the land that they owned. They wanted to protect it with everything they had. Sitting Bull, born on 1831 and died in 1890. He was a Native American chief under whom the Sioux tribes united in their struggle against the survival on the North American Great Plains. After the gold was found in their area, the Sioux came in huge conflict with America, which led to Sitting Bull joining forces with Crazy Horse and their tribes. Crazy Horse was a legendary warrior and a leader of the Lakota Sioux. So he was celebrated for his battle skills and as well as his efforts to preserve Native American traditions and their way of life. After Americans attempted for reservations of land against the Sioux, Crazy Horse rebelled and was alongside Sitting Bull against George Custer's army.
The U.S. government issued an ultimatum to the Lakota. Come to the reservation within 60 days or be considered hostile and at war. Few Lakota paid attention to the government's threat.
George Armstrong Custer. He was a U.S. cavalry officer who served a great deal in the American Civil War, and he led 600 men to the Battle of Little Bighorn, also known as Custer's Last Stand, losing drastically with over 200 men dead.
Colonel decided to launch an attack, waiting for neither scouting intelligence nor reinforcements. With fierce strategy and skill, Sitting Bull's forces engaged Custer's army in numbers much larger than the lieutenant colonel had anticipated. Outmanned, outfought, and outmaneuvered, the 7th Cavalry was defeated in less than 2 days of fighting.
Custer's defeat. One morning, Custer's scout reported a gigantic Indian village nearby the valley of Little Bighorn River. His main fear was that the Indians would scatter, so instead of waiting for reinforcements, he brought 600 men and then suffered the consequences. In this picture, you can see the battles between the Native Americans and the Americans all over, and on the top right, you'll see Custer's last stand, and that's where the Battle of Little Bighorn took place. The myth of the Old West. When you think of the Old West, you think of cowboys slaughtering all the Indians and conquering the land easily. That is a myth, though, because hard battles like these led to Americans to suffer many casualties and Native Americans, making it tough for Americans to conquer their land.